Tanya, if I may, can
Mhm.
you please share your approach to off-market opportunities? And we all know that they could be lucrative and they could generate good revenue. So let's say there is a scenario. Let's say you have a buyer that is wants to open, let's say, a mechanic shop. He's a mechanic. He's got experience. He owned a business before, and he has been seeing a closed shop for maybe a year or two. It was just closed doors, not operational. And he really likes it. He likes the location. He likes the building layout. He likes everything. How do we go about finding the actual owner who had his business closed for a year or two? How would you go about working that deal out?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't look for a business owner per se. I'd look for the property owner and send them a letter or find their contact information. You might be able to find it at the county assessor. You might be able to use some of the tools that are available in EXP. I think now they have Moody's Analytics, so you might be able to find information in Moody's. I don't know. But first off, I don't typically represent buyers. But if I did have a buyer come to me and they said, "Hey," like in your scenario, they said, "Hey, here's the location. I want to put a deal together. I want that location." Um, it's a lease is what it is. You're going to the property owner and trying to set up a lease for your buyer unless they want to buy the real estate, and then you're trying to buy the real estate. But that's a real estate deal. That's not really a business deal. So, or the way I look at it. Okay, the way I
Okay.
look at it. So
On
other
the
people
same
may look at
on
it
the same
differently.
area, let's say there is, which happened to be the actual situation going to the barber shop. There is an existing barber shop that is operational business.
Yeah.
Okay. And my buyer likes the location.
Okay.
So he now so I really like it, operator of the business and see if he's willing to sell. How would you approach the owner of the operational business and structure your conversation around asking him if he wants to sell or not, or
I
convincing him to sell, I should say?
Yeah. That's the thing. I don't convince anybody to do anything. I don't think it's possible because, particularly in a business transaction, because business transactions take so long. You've got from due diligence and all of that. You're looking at a minimum of 30 days typically, and if there's lender involvement, you're looking at 60 days. So if you convince somebody to do something that they really don't want to do, they've got 2 months to figure it out. And those impulse buys you see at the market, they put all the impulse items right next to the cash register because they want to make sure that by the time you grab that and throw it up on the conveyor belt and that you check out, pay your money before you can think too hard about it, right? So I don't believe personally that you can convince people to do something that is not what they truly want. And I think that they may agree with you initially for a short time, but it's gonna be gnawing in the back of their head. Every night they go to sleep, they're gonna be thinking about, "Is this really what I want? Do I really wanna do this?" And ultimately, they're not. If they're not ready, they're not ready. So, there's in business brokerage, it's really interesting because you have all kinds of ways. I see all kinds of lists of how to handle objections, handling objections is great if they truly actually do wanna sell. And sometimes but I look at it more as education. If they're ready, fine. If they're not ready, it's a matter of educating them and finding out what will help them move down the road to being ready, because especially if you're dealing with somebody who's in their mid-70s, you know that they're gonna retire sooner or later. It's just a matter of when. So, trying to find out what motivates them, what their thought process is. And one of the questions I ask business owners a lot is, how much longer do you want to work in your business? And so you go in the scenario you said, you've got a barbershop owner, if the guy's 35 years old, I'm not going to use that question. But if I get a hold of the owner and he's got gray hair and all that, then I'm probably going to say, hey, have you thought about how much longer you want to work in your business? And just start the conversation that way and let him tell me what his thoughts are. And then let him know, hey, you know, I have a prospective buyer. I have a client who's very interested in acquiring your barbershop, your location. Have you ever thought about selling? And see what they say. Maybe they have thought about it. Maybe they haven't. So it's just putting information out there. Um, if the guy says, "Yeah, I do want to sell, but I want to sell at the end of the year. I'm not really ready right now." I'm like, okay, well, now you go back to education. Did you know that in on average it takes 8 to 10 months to sell a business? So if you want to sell by the end of the year, it's probably a good idea to start putting things together now because we're in March and you're in that 8 to 10 month window. So maybe you don't want to close escrow next month or, by June, and that's okay. But maybe if he wants to sell by the end of the year, you might be able to work out something with a buyer where they can sell, but he can stay on and work until the end of the year. So a lot of it is just asking questions and listening.
I think it's
Yeah.
also an opportunity to, get them prepared to sell too, laying out what they need to do, gathering P&Ls, gathering all their financial information, filling out a seller's disclosure. I mean, there's a variety of tasks you can give them to get them prepared. I mean, I just signed a listing agreement yesterday, and I think the guy's been wanting to sign a listing agreement this week for about 8 weeks now, and I finally got it signed. So, but I think it's important through this process to not be pushy. This is people's livelihoods. They've worked at it very long to build these, and it's really not up to us to dictate a timetable. It's just to be at their service when they're ready and to get them prepared, I think.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I got an email yesterday from a company that I've been in contact with that wanted to sell back in around, I think our original contact was back around May of 2022. And it's two brothers that own the place, and one of the brothers, wanted to I had contacted me and we had had all kinds of conversations, and he kept saying, "Well, we need to schedule a Zoom call with my brother and blah blah blah." And so I'd said, "Hey, I'm happy to do that. Let me know when to follow up because I like to be diligent. I don't like to be a pest." I said, "Is it okay if I follow up with you in, you know, 3, 4 weeks if I haven't heard from you sooner?" And so that was yes. But then as time went by, I started stretching it out. It was like, okay, well, clearly your brother's not ready yet because we can't get this on calendar. So how about if I call you, how about if I follow up with you in 2 or 3 months? And so, and then, like I said, out of the blue yesterday, got an email from introducing me to his brother. First time I've had his brother's name and email address, and saying, "Hey, we're ready to go. When can you?" And my brother's going to be the primary contact. So, when can you schedule a meeting? So yeah, you just keep in touch, and you just listen and let them dictate the timing.
I mean, in that regard, business brokering is very similar to the sales cycle of real estate. I mean, I think that's everybody's probably had that similar experience in real estate as well, with somebody who's not quite ready to sell, but wants to.
Yeah. Kevin, what's happening?
I have a lead that I'm trying to develop. It's a father-son owned business. And I've met with the father. I've done a kind of a quick and dirty back of the napkin opinion of value on 1 year of financials. And he's told me that the son has first right of refusal and I think 50% interest in the business. But I haven't had any interaction with the son. So I know the father is interested in that number and has approached the son. So I'm right at this point where I'm not sure how to engage the son to find out his interest or what he wants to do or how they want to move forward. And I don't want to be bothersome, but I'd like to be effective.
Yeah, family dynamics can be tough. I had a transaction years ago where it was a small transaction. It was like a locksmith store, and the son worked in the business. We kept asking the dad, "Are you sure your son doesn't want the business?" No, he told me he doesn't want it. Okay. We list it. Finally, when we bring an offer in, son decides he wants the business. So the family dynamics are always a challenge. If the son already owns part of the business, then actually it's really the father and son that need to have the conversation. You need to tell, dad, hey, does the son want to buy you out? Does he want to be sole owner? Does he, he may want to be sole owner, or he may not. He may want to go and do something different completely, and he may be on board with selling it. But that's a conversation that father and son need to have. So I would just encourage him. I have that situation sometimes with not father and son, but like an attorney who has another lawyer working in his firm and wants to sell the business to him. And it's like, okay, but does that attorney want to be the owner? Do they want ownership headaches, ownership responsibilities? Because a lot of times people don't. So when a business owner wants to sell to a key employee, my first question for them is, does that key employee want to be an owner? And most of the time they've never asked. They've never asked him. So it's a conversation that has to be had. Because if it's not, in this case, you can't sell the business for the father if the son owns 50% of it. That you're going to have a shareholder, some kind of a entity authorization form signed by all the shareholders and so forth. So son, you can't do it behind the son's back, nor would you want to. And you really need cooperation you need cooperation of all the shareholders in the business if you're going to sell the business.